So, Michael, it looks like the efforts of Steve Carell have paid off. We saw last week in Irresistible Steve Carell going to Wisconsin, the town of Deer Lake, and more specifically, to try and win the mayoral race. Of course, it turned out to be a fake mayoral race for the town of Deer Lake and in Wisconsin. But he must have done something there. He must have struck a chord with Wisconsinites and got them to vote for the Democrats, because it turns out that Joe Biden has won the great state of Wisconsin, and that will be crucial in ensuring his path to victory and becoming the 46th president of the United States. So congrats to Steve Carell.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I don't think they could have done it without him. And I guess it really shows. And the thing is, the Democrats won so comfortably against such an impressive candidate. Given all of that, the Democrats should feel very proud of themselves and what they've managed to achieve in taking back states like Wisconsin.
Yeah, no, definitely. The Democrats should be so proud of what they've done. I can imagine Steve Carell-like figures. Obviously, he doesn't, he was playing a role in a movie. But the real Steve Carell, the real-life Steve Carells, they must be over the moon, and rightly so. What they have done, defeating Donald Trump, squeaking it over the line, 20,000 votes in Wisconsin, currently like 10,000 in Pennsylvania. Just incredible stuff.
It just goes to show that what could possibly be wrong with a system where it just comes down to a couple of thousand people among millions deciding the outcome for the whole country.
Let's not get political here.
No, you're right. This has been an exclusively non-political podcast from the beginning, and that's why we're going to be doing a very non-political film this time.
Yes.
A romantic comedy, Yeah. Maybe there's some political dimensions to it. I didn't personally pick up on them. Must have been very subtle. Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke, and this week we are celebrating the American election and I believe also the 25-year anniversary of the film The American President. So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about The American President?
Well, right now, Michael, it's Donald Trump. But in a few months' time, it's going to be Joe Biden, if everything goes to plan. Yeah, so apparently there's some military ballots still uncounted right now in Pennsylvania and Georgia, but he might not even need those two states. Oh, sorry, you want me to talk about the American president of the film? Oh,
yes,
my
Luke.
bad. Sorry, I was a bit slow there. But you're right, yeah, we're doing the American president because it's 25 years since it was released. It was actually released, well, I'll just say it now anyway, on November the 17th, 1995, so we're just off 25 years. So we can't get some great articles about how Michael Douglas is so different to Donald Trump, because articles normally come out like 25 years after a film's release. And of course, at the same time, this movie is right near the presidential election. So we try to get it as close as possible. It just happened after, and this movie is sure something. So we'll get into it. The American President is a 1995 American romantic comedy drama film directed by Rob Reiner and written by Aaron Sorkin. Aaron Sorkin, does that name ring a bell, Michael?
Yes, it does. It rings a bell from that episode we never did about the West Wing for my other channel.
The film stars Michael Douglas, Annette Bening, Martin Sheen, Michael J. Fox, Richard Dreyfuss, and someone else, and Samantha Mathis. The movie, like I said, was released on November the 17th, 1995. And Michael, can you tell me what the budget was for The American President?
Yes, I can. It was exactly, count them, $11 million.
62.
Okay, I guess that makes sense because there would have been some sets and maybe some of the people were famous. I don't know. I mean, it seems like a lot of money for, like 62.
Indeed.
So, because we when we were talking about 50 Shades of Grey, and it was 39 million, and we were shocked by that. But let's be honest, that had helicopters in it. What does this have in it?
Well, this does actually have a helicopter in it. Yeah. No, but that's the thing. This movie, I think I read a bit earlier. I'll just see if I can find it about how they had to build a set. So they had to build the West Wing and the East Wing, and these sets were then used for the actual TV show, The West Wing, and also Independence Day as well. I remember reading. So, they got their money out of it, I guess you could say. Who produced it? Warner Brothers and Sony.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. What they could have done is they could have rented it out forever. Everyone was making all those meme jokes about, making it so because Biden's got dementia or whatever, he could lose the election and then we could just have him on a set and have him be convinced that the election is still a thing.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's very possible. And by the way, sorry, it was produced by Columbia and Universal. It was distributed by Sony and Warner Brothers. So a bit of a distinction there. So that is the budget for The American President, $62 million. Now, can you tell me the box office, Michael? What did it make?
Well, I kind of feel like this film, almost based on the fact it made that much, based on the fact it cost that much, I could see it not have even made that much back. But I'm going to be generous and say maybe it got like 75 million. I don't know.
Wow.
Well, okay, it's like, I don't know, for me personally, it just seems like a kind of run-of-the-mill romantic comedy.
Oh yeah, you see a lot of romantic comedies about the president dating someone, don't you?
Well, like Love Actually, remember where Hugh Grant is the Prime Minister and he dates someone?
I mean, that's a whole different thing, a whole different office. Parliament is different to a republic.
Way sexier Prime Minister.
Yeah, of course.
That.
But no, the box office was not $75 million. The box office was, in fact, $108 million.
Okay. I was going to say, if it was within the 100 range, I'd be kind of happy with that. This made like 200 million. I'd be like, whoa, that's too much.
This movie, I guess, it's not that well remembered. It's just because it's got a weird premise, I guess. And, of course, we're doing a movie right after the presidential election. So that's why, of course, we're doing it. So, Michael, The American President, did you like this movie?
I found this film really rather boring and a bit...
Boring? What?
Well, pretty like kind of whatever and a bit silly. I guess here's the thing. This film felt like the human equivalent of Obama, but without the charisma, which I guess is a roundabout way of saying this film felt like the human equivalent of Joe Biden.
I'm not sure. Well, no.
It kind of felt like, well, I don't know, maybe not Joe Biden, maybe Justin Trudeau.
Justin Trudeau.
This film
that's
felt
a
like
good
Justin
shout.
Trudeau.
Yeah, I mean, Douglas
maybe
is
Nick Clegg, but obviously then Nick Clegg's kind of lost his appeal after the whole situation. But
No,
of pre-2010 Nick Clegg, I think. In a way.
No, absolute bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Michael Douglas is so much more charismatic than Nick Clegg. You forget,
But
even the name.
Nick Clegg's
the name,
sorry.
Nick Clegg. Come on.
Yeah, that's not a good name.
But that's the thing. I don't think he's that. I think he's fine. He's like, I'm not sure he's Obama levels. I don't think that's possible, to be honest. But he's definitely better than Biden. I mean, they've got a different kind of thing going. Biden's more folksy, obviously. But yeah, that's the thing. It is. You said it's kind of like Obama, and just a shitter version, which I guess it's hard to do a version of Obama that's as good because, like I said, he's quite a charismatic guy. But overall, I would say that yes, it's quite predictable that was your takeaway because, of course, it was Aaron Sorkin who wrote this. Aaron Sorkin has had a hand in the actual West Wing, the TV show, and of course. That was very much central to how people perceived Obama. They thought he was like a character out of the West Wing when he first broke onto the political stage, didn't he? But yeah, so this is I guess predictable, and I say yeah, it's kind of the same. It's quite boring, and yeah, you really do. Here's the thing. Obviously, I knew Sorkin wrote this before I watched it. But, well, did you know Sorkin wrote it?
Well, I did know it because I think in the opening credits you see it. The funny thing is, usually I don't pay attention to opening credits, but
you did this time.
Yeah, like sometimes every now and then I just notice it and I'm just like, oh yeah. And obviously I remember.
Do you think you could tell if you didn't see?
Well, obviously I should point out that I'm not as familiar with the West Wing as you, although I have heard you mention the West Wing in a political context. And based on that, I mean, I can see a lot of it. This film, it does feel very, I guess, idealistic, very, very like it's in the same way that the West Wing does. It's aspiring to these higher ideals, and there's definitely some scenes. I mean, I guess the funny thing about this film is the politics aspect is obviously there, but I feel like the romance aspect is there as well. And I think that if it had even more politics, it would probably be even more obvious. There's not too much. Well, I say there's not too much. There's a lot of politicking in this film, but there's not so much for it to be completely on full display compared to, for example, Irresistible, where the whole plot's like politics.
Yeah. In this one, I guess the politics aren't the be-all and end-all, but certainly quite a bit, actually. And that's, I think, what the guy who originally wanted to pursue this project was Robert Redford, and he stepped away and he didn't play the president in the end because he wanted to do more of a love story, and Ryan wanted to do something that was more about politics. And so that's the difference right there, I guess.
Oh.
And yeah, this movie could have been just more romance, but it wasn't. There's quite a bit of politics in here. But yeah, so I'd just sum up to say if I didn't know who wrote this, I would be absolutely 100% sure. Beforehand, if I didn't know, I would be sure after watching it, it would be Sorkin. Because there is just so many elements, and it's Sorkin, or basically a rip-off version of Sorkin, essentially. So we'll get into the nitpicks now, Michael. First off, how many do you have?
I've got one nitpick.
I've got 4, I believe.
Okay, yeah, I'm not surprised. To be honest, I did actually I had another nitpick in here, but I figured it would actually make sense to put that under a different section. So the one nitpick I have is actually, it's with you for making me watch this after the election. Because I was just like, the election was so unsatisfying and like a combination of stressful and yet boring, which is almost impressive to achieve. And I really didn't want to think about politics too much afterwards. And, even though it's a nice, sometimes politics can be interesting to dissect, but I was just like, I just don't want to think about politics. And obviously, this could have been a respite from that. We could have been looking at some bland Marvel movie, or maybe even a nice art film or something. But no, we had to watch this film, which is just politics. And
I tried to base it around the election.
So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, I know you like to keep things topical, Luke, but I hate you for it.
Okay,
that's my one nitpick. Which is...
I was like that today. I was like, oh yeah, I gotta watch this movie again. It's like just so different from the context we're living in nowadays with Trump and just fucking Michael Douglas doing his, best fucking. I don't know. It's not even a Bill Clinton impression. It's just like the ideal president, I guess, impression. But yeah, so okay, I can understand that's your nitpick. Yes, it does seem like just a million miles away from what we're living in today. But anyway, so here are my nitpicks. So first one, Jeb Bartlet isn't the president. It's not the president. It's just weird.
Is this
weird,
like a
Michael.
West Wing thing?
Yes, the West Wing. So Michael Sheen in the West Wing plays the president, Jeb Bartlet. And in this movie, he's the chief of staff. What the fuck is that about, man? Come on. Why is he not the president? It just completely throws me off right away when I saw it. I was like, wait,
I'm not surprised I didn't get this nitpick.
Why do you, yeah, I know, but why aren't you sitting behind a desk? No, that's the thing. Of course, this movie was made before the West Wing, so that makes sense. But yeah, Gene Siskel kind of agreed with me, even though the West Wing hadn't been invented yet. He said the decision to cast Douglas and Sheen in the same film, and especially in similar roles within that film, he criticised it, basically. I missed that bit out. He criticised it, expressing the worry that the similarity between the two actors' appearances would lead audiences to confuse their respective characters. Which I won't go that far. Like, I think it's pretty obvious that throughout the film, Michael Douglas is the president. But yeah, they are two kind of similar. If you see Jeb Bartlet in The West Wing, of course it's written by Sorkin, so you would say, well, it's not necessarily the actors are similar. It's just the person writing it has created two very similar idealistic principled presidents, and so Bartlet is like Michael Douglas in this movie. But yeah, I just found that a bit off. Next nitpick: the staff, they didn't do a background check on Sydney. I think that's a pretty awful situation, to be honest. If you're the staff, you should do that. Like, this is the minimum.
But they're watching out for those florists, though.
Yeah, I mean, the president wouldn't care from what you gather in this movie. Obviously, he wouldn't care. But yeah, like, that's the minimum you do. I mean, the Republicans did it. Why can't you do that? I just think that's a big oversight there from his staff. Yeah, Michael J. Fox needs to get back on it. By the way, he looks like he's like 25 in this movie. I mean, because he has a young face anyway. Yeah. But that's the thing. He's meant to be like a senior advisor to the president, and he looks like he's just got out of college. So I don't know about that. I don't know about that casting decision, I have to say. Next one. Okay, I guess this is a lit pick, actually, but I put it in the nitpicks anyway. In the 2016 this is from Wikipedia. In the 2016 presidential election, candidate Ted Cruz paraphrased a portion of the American president when fellow candidate Donald Trump insulted Cruz's wife. Do you remember this, Michael?
Yes, yeah, I do. Yeah, well, yeah. Ted Cruz, obviously, how could I forget? I mean, Ted Cruz hasn't forgotten it, certainly.
Yeah, Ted Cruz stated, "And if Donald wants to get into a character fight, he's better off sticking with me, because Heidi is way out of his league," referencing the speech President Shepard made after Rumsden's attack on Sidney Ellen Wade. That's the thing, I remember at the time, I'd not seen this movie back in 2016 or 15, whenever Donald Trump criticised his wife. And then fucking Cruz says that line, and then I saw like back-to-back footage of Michael Sheen saying it and Ted Cruz saying it. And I think maybe even Trump commented on it or posted it on his Twitter. Like, those were the days, man. But yeah, I remember looking at it thinking, oh, Ted Cruz, that's so sad. It's so sad you use that. So you're so desperate to be president. You obviously watched that movie and you're like, yeah, I can be that one day. I can be the president. What a sad, pathetic little man. And my last nitpick, it's about the movie's title. It is an awful, awful title. The American President. Is that it? Is that the best you can come up with? Of all the possible titles, you just stated the guy's like job. he's the American president.
No, but let me tell you this, okay? Being in the American president isn't just a job, because America isn't just a country. It is an ideal. It is a state of mind, and it is a beacon of hope for oppressed people everywhere. Or at least it used to be.
It used to be. God damn, it used to be. And then you slam a hand on the desk. Yeah, that's what actually we should... that's what Sorkin should do. He should bring back the West Wing post-Trump. You know, trying to rekindle America's image. Yes, that is an idea. Get on it, Sorkin. Anyway, so yeah, it's just an awful... Like, come on, the least creative thing you could possibly do. So that's it, Michael. Those are my nitpicks. Or I guess the lit pick as well with the Cruz thing. And we shall now get on to the plot of the movie. So I shall read this off Wikipedia one sec. In the film, President Andrew Shepard, who is of course played by Michael Douglas, is a widower. And I think it doesn't really spell out when his wife died. I think his wife probably died in the middle of his campaign. So this movie comes out in 95, 1992 is when the election would have been. So maybe in the middle of the 1992 election campaign, his wife dies, I assume.
Well, yeah, or maybe a little bit before, because obviously it would have to be a memory. I'm just thinking, like, if it happened during it, then I feel like they would have been doing character... Because one of the things they say is that we couldn't do a character attack ad, and to be honest, like, I mean, obviously...
Well, what if she passed away in, like, August of 92?
Actually, quite early, maybe. Although, to be fair, I feel like in that situation, I mean, that would just be crazy. Maybe though, maybe actually that.
Well, I mean, it's crazy. It would have been crazy, but this is what this movie is.
I know.
saying.
I know. In my head, it's like hard to imagine. Like, imagine that you're running for president and then your bloody wife dies. Although it's also, I will say this, okay, you know, this would actually be the other thing. It's implied, I think, maybe that his wife knew she was going to die, implying she had some kind of... I don't know if they ever say cancer, but implying that she had some kind of...
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, in that case, so his wife obviously had cancer, so that would obviously allow for the possibility. This is basically me invalidating my own argument, because that would allow for the possibility that they weren't attacking him even while his wife was alive, because... So yeah, around that time, certainly. Maybe he ran with her by his side, and she was like, and he, you know, she like encouraged him to do it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, no, that's exactly beautiful. All the stories that would be written about, you know, his wife and the encouragement that she had for him to pursue his dream of being the president and uniting the country. Oh God, it just writes itself, doesn't it? But that's apparently what happened. So he is a widower now, who has staved off criticism for the last 3 years because his wife died. And he has got a 63% approval rating, as they mentioned quite a few times. Well, I don't know if stave off criticism is the right word. They can't attack his character. And of course, he's doing a great job policy-wise, so, you know, that's the only thing you can go at, apparently. He pursues a relationship with environmental lobbyist Sydney Ellen Wade, who is played by Annette Bening, who has just moved to Washington, D.C., while at the same time attempting to win the passage of a crime control bill during re-election year. So they say it's re-election year, but this takes place at the back end of 1995 because the State of the Union is January 96. So it's not technically election year, but whatever. Like for the majority,
I found that funny. Yeah, it seemed like it was quite well, because obviously they're celebrating Christmas, which would mean it would have to be the election. I don't know if you noticed, Luke, it's in November. So obviously that would mean this is almost a whole year before. Yeah, I know that because the election just happened in November, so I know. Yes, exactly. We worked this stuff out.
Yeah, so that's the thing. He's you know, trying to run for a re-election, but also trying to bang as well. And it's a tricky thing to pull off. But any character written by Aaron Sorkin can do it. That's I think the message. So yeah, the president at the start of the movie, he's just going about his day, being presidential. People admire him. He's the perfect man. He's a loving father. His wife has passed away. Very honourable. And then, you find out, of course, his wife died. Someone makes a joke about it, which they shouldn't do. But because, you know, he's...
Well, hold on a minute. They shouldn't do it unless they want to be the 45th president of the United States, because that would definitely be the kind of thing...
No. She was a black... Well, was she black? Was she... I don't know.
Yeah,
she was
black, something.
She was a woman who was an ethnic minority who made that joke, so that's a definite no-no. But that's the thing. So you find that out, because at the start it's just like, well, what the fuck is this? It's just like, what is the plot here? What's happening? And then, like, I think 15 minutes in, that line is dropped. So it's like, okay, this is where it's going then, I guess. His wife has died, so that has to have some effect on the plot. And so he meets this woman, Sydney Ellen Wade, that's her name, played by Annette Bening, and the president immediately takes a shining to her. And my question here is, Michael, because this is a central problem with, I think, romantic comedies. Just or some of them. Why?
I'm gonna guess,
why does the president like it?
I was just about to jump in there and guess that. Yeah, why? Genuinely, like this in this time, this was one of the bigger whys I've had in a romantic comedy. Like, obviously, there's always a degree of what the hell's happening here, but in this case, it was more pronounced, definitely for me. Like, I was really shocked by just how manufactured it all felt and how inauthentic it felt.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It did feel kind of inauthentic. I mean, the chemistry between the two isn't bad, but it ain't great, So it just seems to me like she likes him because he's the president, I think there's one line from the sister of Annette Bening in the movie. He's like, he's funny, he's handsome, all of that. He's smart. Okay, so he's a great guy essentially. And it's not really, she doesn't really say anything like that. She's just attracted. It just seems like she's attracted to him because he's the president. And then he's attracted to her just because. Like, there's never a scene where he sits down with an advisor and talks about her. That's what I was expecting, Like AJ, played by Marcin.
Oh, gee, she's so great. Just like in our favourite film, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. That romance was really, loved it.
AJ sits down and said, why are you doing it for this woman? Your poll numbers are tanking. Come on, what are you doing? And Marcin just looks up and goes, because I love her. Or something. Or she's the one, Just have a scene like that. So, because it just seems he likes her, and then he's willing to risk his, fucking presidency for her when his poll numbers are tumbling. Like, come on, just give me something more. Yeah, and there's a lot of, why should the public interested? This is my private life. I can do what I want. I'm not married. I'm single. Blah blah. Yeah, and I get that. That's something that is mentioned again. But why though? Why would you do that? And just have one scene, please, where you spell it out. That's all I want. But yeah, so the plot continues. Not sure, if they can make it work. She comes over to the West Wing and says, hey, I'm not sure this can continue. I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave you. We can't do it anymore. Then Michael Douglas makes a speech to her because, the speeches work. And then she takes her trousers off and is ready to have sex. So, there's a great Aaron Sorkin thing there. She's ready to leave them. Michael Douglas gives an inspiring, charismatic speech full of wit and charm. And then, they're ready to have sex together. So is that how it works, Michael? In politics? That's
basically. I mean, to be fair, I think there is a strong correlation between being good at giving speeches and having sex with women, I would imagine, Whereas sexual charisma and political charisma, probably the same thing. I mean, Bill Clinton was very charismatic. I guess that obviously leads to the big question, which is how often was Obama just smacking it? That's not. I don't know. That's not the right term.
That's what the question now leads. No, but that'd be great, wouldn't it? If you're trying to win over a girl and you just have Aaron Sorkin handing you cue cards out of you, just to get the job done.
I like the idea because obviously there's an idea that these kind of political speeches are all a bit, no one really takes them seriously. And in romantic comedies, you of course do often get these speeches at the end where there's I'm just a girl stood in front of a guy, all that kind of stuff. So I like the idea of having that, but it's literally, it almost feels like it's kind of exposing it when you have it, and it's literally just a political speech. It's just like, I mean, to be fair, it does come back to that one idea I had for a romantic comedy between a woman and a guy who leads a far-right wing populist movement where he's able to win her over, and she is actually an analogy for the electorate.
Okay, that'll be an interesting rom-com. I'd like to see that.
On it.
Yeah, no, but so she then starts a proper relationship with him. His poll numbers continue to slide, and then she starts causing political problems for him. I see. This was a bit hard to follow. He wants to pass a crime bill and an environment bill.
I found this hard to follow too. Yeah.
Yeah. So he hasn't got the votes for the environment bill, but getting the votes for the environment bill, the 10 votes he says to her, I'll guarantee them, means that that person isn't going to vote for the crime bill. Like 3 congressmen aren't going to vote for the crime bill. That's what I got from it, I think.
Yeah, it was something like basically he wanted people to support his crime bill, but some people said they wouldn't support his crime bill unless he dropped the environment bill. That was what I inferred from it. So, and then basically he agrees to drop the environment bill in order to win votes for the crime bill. And then she's like, oh, so you were just using me for leverage so you could pass your crime bill. And then he's like, no, even though yes. And that's pretty much what I got from it. And then obviously in the end he agrees to drop the crime bill because it doesn't have enough gun control.
Yes, good old gun control. We love to see it. That's the thing. there is this real issue for the president because he's not getting these 2 bills passed that he wants to get passed. He's got his girlfriend leaving him, and so what does he do? What does he do about it? He's obviously at the start of an election year running a political campaign. What does he do about it? Well, how does anything get solved in the Aaron Sorkin world, the Aaron Sorkin universe? You gave a big speech right at the end of the movie in front of the press, the American people, and that solves all your problems. Solves every last one of them, doesn't it? Because he somehow bats away the crime bill and says, we're going to have a new crime bill, and it's going to be on gun control, just out of nowhere. And it doesn't. I mean, they were concerned about the poll numbers when he had 63% approval. Now, when he's down in the low 40s, apparently, that's okay. So, all right, fair enough. And then, he says they're going to pass the environment bill as well. Again, that's something that is apparently in this universe it's quite a risky thing to do. Probably in real life as well in the mid-90s. And then right now as well, he's saying to what was he called? Bob Rumson. Was that his name?
Yeah. Donald Rumsfeld.
Fucking Donald Rumsfeld. That my wife is not a whore. My girlfriend is not a whore. He makes that very clear. So he solves all these problems, and then he goes into the State of the Union to give another speech. And I'm very surprised that Sorkin didn't go for it, because you got another opportunity for a speech there. What happened, Aaron? What happened? Why you've got another 5 minutes of great oratorial ability to get a new movie, and you just throw it away. You just throw that opportunity away. What is going on there? So I was disappointed in that. But I don't really understand why he's giving a speech just right before the State of the Union. Why not just do that speech in the State of the Union? Because everyone's going to be watching a speech tonight, guaranteed. I don't know. It just seems a bit messy at the end, and there's the old trick this one speech solves everything, and that's it. That's all that's necessary. So what do you think?
No, basically, I pretty much do agree with you. It seems like, the whole thing is so strange and naive. The idea that, it's kind of hard not to get into the obvious, everything we need to kind of talk about. But basically, the people he's up against, they're attacking his character, and his solution to this is to come out and advocate for gun control, which I find really funny, because one of the things I've seen a lot on 4chan recently is that people, obviously, they're very angry at the libertarians, and they're saying all sorts of things. One, they're saying that, under Joe Biden, you're going to get kind of European-style hate speech legislation in the US, which I think their First Amendment is pretty clear. But the other thing they're saying is Biden's going to take your guns away. And it's so funny that they believe that, because when you actually look at the Democrats just have completely reasonable... the Democrats really aren't the gun control party. I know that they obviously...
Oh, really?
Well, they're the gun control party relative to the Republicans. But in the grand scheme of, the potential spectrum of gun control, the Democrats are rather mild. Basically their thing is stuff you shouldn't have... I swear, a lot of the things they talk about is things you shouldn't have silencers. And it's obviously, why would you need a silencer to, have it? Are you planning on assassinating someone? Things that most of the things, obviously fully automatic weapons, and even I think, some of them are against semi-automatic weapons, but things which kind of you could say make sense, and certainly not, we're going to take away, all of your guns, because that's, and I'm inclined to be that, but I like the idea that in this scenario, apparently a Democrat could be I am the gun control guy, because even if we're going to grant that the Democrats are really the gun control party, they certainly try to coax that in a reasonable sense by saying, we're just about reasonable measures to do blah, blah, blah. Whereas this guy's we're going to do more gun. He's really enthusiastic about it. And obviously he's really enthusiastic about the environment. I saw a lot of people saying I hope anybody in Pennsylvania who works on fracking that voted for Biden feels happy for themselves. And while I'm sure most people who work in fracking probably didn't vote for Biden, it wouldn't be unreasonable for somebody whose job happens to be in fracking to realize that fracking's not good. But anyway, the point being that lots of people, the idea of this environment law and this gun control law being these big triumphant moments is just so stupid. And then obviously,
why so stupid? Because you don't think it's politically feasible?
I don't think that I don't think that the American public would support that. I think actually, in the 1990s, Bill Clinton did ban assault rifle sales for 10 years. Yeah.
That's the thing.
Also,
I think
Reagan was pretty big on gun control. That's the hilarious thing, because didn't he because obviously when the Black Panthers were arming themselves, Reagan introduced loads of
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think it's probably before George Bush and Fox News and before Obama, obviously, as well.
So maybe this is just my presentism in place.
Yeah, the gun legislation, wasn't as controversial. Of course, some people are still pissed off, but I think it's just been heightening the culture war.
Is it also true for the environment? Because obviously, from today's perspective, the environment.
No, that's the one I think is a bit off.
Much more. Yeah,
because you're cutting 20% of carbon dioxide, and I don't even. There's no really specific thing. Like, is that on corporations? Is that by the government?
Yeah, like I
wasn't
sure
just a target?
What the rule was either. Like 20% of like that. That's kind of. I did find that sort of funny. The idea that the president just goes, we want to get rid of 20% of the bad thing.
That's the thing. Is that
we're going to support more public infrastructure to make it so more people take public transport?
Yeah, is this going to be the government doing it? Okay, you can do that. It's going to make that big a difference. But if you're asking, like, he's saying America, so I assume that means like private corporations have to do that as well. Like car companies and so on. Like, you're doing that, then that's I can imagine a significant pushback from the people who live in those states, like Michigan, for one.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, back in the day, climate change was not that big a deal. It really wasn't. Definitely not in the mid-90s. It wasn't a big deal in the mid-2000s. Even at the last presidential election in 2016, I don't think there was a question concerning climate change. And now, of course, it's been heightened. I think it's certainly in this election. This has been the first election, I think, watching American politics, that climate change has been asked about, which is good. But yeah, I can't imagine like 26 years or 25 years ago, this radical thing, because it would be radical at the time, was going to get passed.
Well, I feel like climate change was kind of like I know it had been spoken about way back in the 70s, but I feel like climate change was kind of a new thing in the 90s, because obviously Al Gore was really into climate change and things like that. So I don't know if
Al Gore came out with his movie in 2000 An Inconvenient Truth.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. But
that's the thing. That's when it started to pick up, really. Like, Al Gore comes in, and but that's the thing. I can't imagine this going around in the 90s. There just wouldn't be the political will for it.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine that would be the case. But anyway, there's that as well. And basically, the whole point is he solves all these problems with a big speech.
Yeah, and that's the silly thing. And you think about. I mean, again, I don't know how much of this is just me thinking about how things are in the present tense, but I'm just thinking about the way like Fox News or whatever would react.
Well, they weren't around back then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. That's the thing, and that's kind of the issue. Like, it's from a modern perspective, it feels laughable, because you kind of imagine the idea of this guy coming out and giving a speech, and then just like everything being like fine. Whereas in reality, it would be like, you just imagine, in the modern day, like Sean Hannity being like, says his girlfriend who sleeps around with people is not a whore, even though she gets all these deals. We don't know where they're coming from. And then he says he wants to take your guns away, and he believes
that sounds more Tucker Carlson-esque, I have to say.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I'm not like that sophisticated with my different versions.
Well, you should be.
Yeah.
Now, Tucker Carlson is the guy that like goes after those Democrats more. I mean, Sean Hannity just complains really about like corruption, I think. I guess this is kind of the same thing. Like, I imagine that's a Carlson thing. But anyway, I think overall, Fox News not being that. That's the thing, that the girlfriend burning a political flag. Oh, you better believe Fox News. That's the whole reason why that's why they invented it. Because in this world, it doesn't gain that much traction. But like, if Fox News was around in this universe, then oh my god, they'd be spinning that like 24/7, like talking about it constantly, and that would be a massive, massive deal. And it doesn't appear to be that massive deal in this universe. His poll numbers seem to drop anyway. But overall, the idea that all these problems, with his girlfriend, which the American public apparently don't like that much, with the guns, with the environment, all gets solved in this swelling speech, and you can, when the music kicks in underneath, and swells. I noticed it, and it just comes out of nowhere. Like, I was like, oh, here we go, we're really ramping up for something now. It's just so manufactured, and you've seen that kind of shit so many times. And maybe in the 90s it was kind of like, oh, this is quite neat, this is new, this is inspirational. But you just look at it now and you think, oh my god, this is just pathetic. But yeah, so that's I guess on the plot. Do you have any more thing on the comedy side of the romance?
The romance aspect. Yeah. I mean, I guess there's obviously this whole silly thing about like she keeps accidentally making all these faux pas, and it just comes across a bit, cheesy. But I mean, it's kind of standard stuff, so it's pretty much okay. I do wonder though, like it's an interesting film because it kind of feels like a film where and obviously I'm going to be talking in a lot of stereotypes here, but would women be into this film? Like, because obviously you kind of think there's a logical idea in your head of, again, talking in stereotypes. The man might be like, oh, it's a political drama. Maybe he wants to get his girlfriend or wife or whatever to watch it with him, and he says, oh, it's a romantic comedy. And I think, I don't know if
so the girl wouldn't be interested in politics.
Well, again, obviously I'm talking in terms of like a marketing. I'm assuming the role of a marketing person who's thinking about how, like, to appeal to the two different.
Well,
types
who the
of
hell
people.
knows about in the 90s? But basically, your point is that
like, I don't know whether or not a woman would really be, or somebody who's into romantic comedies, who's probably a woman, whether or not that woman would be into the romantic element. Because certainly I was not like into it.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say yes, women are more into romantic comedies than men. That is for sure. It's like the idea that the politics element would get the men involved rather than the women, which I don't know about. But yeah, I think there's some good, I guess. It's easy. Like, when you write the script, this has got to be the one-on-one thing. The comedy of trying to date a girl while you're the president of the United States. It's like, oh, sorry, I couldn't make it. I was talking to Israel about bombing Libyans or whatever. That's pretty realistic, actually, I think. But yeah, overall, that is the comedy thing. Which,
to be fair, we've all made that excuse before, haven't we, fellas?
Yeah, no, that's the joke which is made, and it's just teed right up for it. Oh, I can't. Sorry, I couldn't make it. I was fucking meeting with the leaders of the free world. that kind of stuff. And so that's obviously the comedy was straightforward there. They got it. But yeah, overall, I guess I was going to talk. Well, I was going to talk about this later, but this brings me on to Sorkin sexism. I think, because it's best to talk about this now in relation to the romance. And I was going to talk about it later because there's separate Sorkin sexism that comes, beside the romance, which is right from the start. It actually doesn't happen as often as I thought it would. Right from the start, you have Michael Douglas teasing this woman, Janie, who's his assistant, and saying, if we can get more things where people hand me big fish, that'll be great. And Janie, because she's autistic, apparently doesn't get that's a joke. And she's like, oh, I'll do that. And Michael Douglas, has Janie, come on, I'm joking. And then, that just shows how flustered
women
she
aren't
is.
funny. Yeah,
women aren't funny. And then Fraser's dad also scolds that woman for doing something wrong, messing up right at the start of the movie. Not Sydney, the other woman who works at the environmental lobby group. Remember her?
Yeah, I do remember her. Yeah, I can't remember. I mean, she's just whatever.
So yeah, those are two examples of sexism. But that's it really throughout the rest of the movie. There wasn't more examples of powerful men putting women down for being stupid, which is a Sorkin trait. But then there is a kind of a sexism thing with the romance. And this goes into what you were saying before. I can't imagine a woman liking this, because here's the thing, like the whole reason why Sydney falls for the president is because she's so flustered. He's this handsome man. She's the president. Yeah, she's definitely overwhelmed by the White House, the power. She walks through.
Golly gee, sir, I'm just so excited to be. She feels like she's from the 50s.
Yeah. She walks through the wrong door because she's such a klutz. And that's fine, I guess, in romantic comedies. You do that, things like that. But the thing is, like, when the president is so cool, calm, collected, like Michael Douglas never has moments where he's like flustered or shy. He always knows what the right thing to say is. And this woman keeps embarrassing herself in front of this confident president with so much power. It does feel like that dynamic is a bit off. And I do like how often fucking Sydney has to call him sir before they do anything. Sorkin would love that. A woman had to call him sir before anything happened. While they're dating. I mean, I'm being a bit harsh. Yeah, exactly, that kind of thing. But I don't want to get into it that much. But it does seem like the power dynamic is a bit off. Like, this woman is just overwhelmed by this president who's so amazing, and that would be okay if also the president had a weak side as well, which he doesn't have. He's like brilliant all the time in typical Sorkin fashion. So yeah, that's the thing. I can understand if a woman watched this wouldn't like it that much, because I don't know if it's a woman's fantasy to like be with the president of the United States. Like, you could say, oh, like Christian Grey, that's a fantasy because he's a eligible bachelor billionaire or whatever. I don't think Michael Douglas is that handsome anyway. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but he's just like a above average guy. He's fine. And I don't know if many women.
I guess he would be like politician hot.
Politician hot. Yeah, I guess. But apparently Beto O'Rourke makes women's calves cramp, so maybe there's precedent for this. But I don't know. What do you think, Michael?
Beto O'Rourke only gets them going when he speaks Spanish. ¿Dónde estás los?
Yeah, but even Better O'Rourke doesn't have the energy of Michael Douglas.
I know, yeah, that's the thing, yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I agree with you on everything you said. Everything is absolutely 100%. So you're right, sir. Basically, yeah, the idea of him being in complete control is a bit weird. The idea of her being so timid and kind of mild-mannered is a bit weird. And yeah, definitely the from a character perspective, the fact he doesn't have a flaw makes it kind of boring. I mean, yeah, because pretty much it's like he's in kind of control the whole time. It's just there's nothing to it. I mean, I guess they kind of do something with the idea of him being a bit duplicitous regarding the whole environmental bill, but that's actually revealed and then solved like a second later, which is
it doesn't last long.
Yeah, like I'm thinking about other romantic comedies, and obviously there's an idea of that they both have things wrong with them, and they kind of learn from that, and that just doesn't happen here.
Yeah. There's no there's no like self-reflection from the president. I mean, he again, no scene of him showing weakness. He just walks straight into that press conference and delivers an incredible speech because he's so perfect. But that's the thing. It does feel like there is just this massive power balance which is off. And of course, I compared it to 50 Shades of Grey. Obviously, it's not that bad in 50 Shades of Grey, or as bad in 50 Shades of Grey, I should say. It's not as bad as that movie, but yeah, it's still like, I'm not really sure about this. It kind of feels like a male fantasy almost. And it doesn't feel like a female fantasy because, again, I don't know if Michael Douglas is that attractive or like women want to be with the president of the United States. Because as you can imagine, your life would be under scrutiny quite a bit, as is displayed in this movie. But anyway, yeah, it's an unusual one, that's for sure, in terms of a romantic comedy drama. But yeah, so I just want to guess. Are you got anything more to say on that, Michael?
No, yeah, it's fine. You can move on.
I just want to sum up on the plot, I guess, or the whole, I guess, premise of this movie. Because, like we said before, it's pretty unusual in a romantic comedy, like the president is dating a woman. And there seemed to be this theme running throughout the 1990s of trying to make the president, like, relatable, trying to humanize him. Have you seen the movie Dave?
No, I haven't actually. Tell me about it.
Well, it's when this guy who's a perfect, like, copy of the president basically becomes the president. Because the real president dies and they cover it up. It's quite a weird premise, but it's actually quite a fun movie. But yeah, there's just like talk about how he's basically there's an idea like he holds the office in incredibly high regard, better than the president, and he's a person to look up to. He's better than the actual guy, and he exposes corruption and all that kind of stuff. And it just seems to me like that was another movie, about the president, about the man who was the president, even though he wasn't actually the president, of course. And yeah, it's just like these 90s movies trying to make the president into somebody who's like, he's in love, again, this apparent appearance or apparently wanting to humanize him, He's brilliant and funny and handsome in this movie. That's what one of the characters literally says. And it's just like, I don't know where this desire came from. It just must be the 1990s. Like what do you think, Michael? Do you think I'm wrong here or not?
No, yeah, I mean, I guess maybe it comes from the fact that obviously Slick Willy was rather slick. And
yes.
That kind of, obviously, there's plenty of dodgy stuff about Bill Clinton, even when he was running. Obviously, cheating on your wife is not a good thing to do and certainly not really material for romantic comedy. But I think the idea of a president who's charismatic, and also, I mean, you've got to bear in mind that from a neoliberal policy perspective, I mean, Bill Clinton ran a budget surplus. They loved them some fiscal responsibility. So in a way, Bill Clinton, I guess, could have come across as one of those. But the funny thing is, even Bill Clinton had flaws. But maybe Bill Clinton kind of made people want to believe in the idea of a flawless president who was going to be perfect. So.
Yeah, I guess so, because that's the thing. He wasn't right wing. He wasn't left wing. I mean, he was right wing, but in an American context, he was a centrist, a third way person, and that was great, I guess, for these guys like Sorkin who believed, it wasn't so much about policy; it was all about your principles. And I guess this is when this kind of movie works back in the 90s, when apparently Americans were very concerned about the character of the country or the character of the president, as all their problems were solved. Everything was so simple. Foreign policy, well, we beat the commies. We don't need to worry about that anymore. The economy, what do? Well, it's neoliberal economics now, third way stuff. Cut down the state, loosen taxes. That seems to be the formula. So we've got that on lock as well. So yeah, now we can make these movies, I guess, about or whether the president's in love, or portraying the president as a normal guy. I guess that's why this kind of thing happened in the 90s, because policy and world events were kind of set to one side because everything was so simple and easy now. So that would be my theory. What do you think?
No, yeah, I mean, actually, yeah, that's a good point. Obviously, I don't know if you actually mentioned this, but the end of the Cold War, the fact that the 1990s was the time of the Pan-Americana, where there was an idea that, and it's funny, I guess, because of course people thought that the Soviet Union was evil and America was fantastic, and that America was basically going to come along and solve all the problems for the world. And obviously, therefore, but I think maybe there were some people thinking, well, America can solve all the problems. America can be the world police. America can, look at the first Gulf War, how we just came in there and showed Saddam Hussein that he was a bad guy. And you don't worry, we got rid of him because you shouldn't just invade countries without any reasonable pretext. That would be bad to do, Saddam Hussein. Yeah, and Bosnia. Yeah, exactly, Bosnia.
Well, that's just the thing. Like in foreign policy, things had been solved. America, we're the good guys.
But I guess there was an idea of like we need to make sure the guy in charge is good. So that's why there's kind of these aspirational films about like America can be perfect, and what we need is a president who's going to wield the power of office responsibly.
They were chasing perfection. It's like we've got all these things nailed down, which are perfect. We're now living, as Fukuyama said, of course, Francis Fukuyama, in the end of history. That was it. And this movie, I guess, can only be made at the end of history when things are all sorted policy-wise. There's just little changes to be made. And so you can then focus on the president, the character of the president, and stupid fucking stories like what if the president wanted to date a woman and he wasn't married? Like, just stuff like that, which if you made that movie like today with all that's going on, it'd be like, who the fuck cares? There are so many problems in this world. There's so much going on. But back in the 90s, that kind of thing could be made. And the same with Dave. You could make a fun movie about what if the president was switched around with someone else, because like I said, there wasn't much policy to be argued out. There wasn't any big questions. Like things had been settled. That's why I think this kind of movie can get made and did get made. But let's get on to, I guess. Well, now we have to talk about Aaron Sorkin a bit more. And I mentioned him quite a few times. Maybe a bit harsh, but the reason why is because he's a hack, Michael. He's a complete hack, and you can see it. Yeah, you can see it throughout his work, and there are just so many hackish Sorkin traits in this movie, which I had to point out, which we will go through now. And the first one I'm going to mention is probably the most obnoxious, that his friend AJ, who is played, of course, by Martin Sheen, will not call the president Andy, will not call him the president's name. Do you remember that? You just won't call him Andy? Because he has so much respect for the office. There's so much honor and integrity. He won't call the president by his fucking name. These respect for these institutions must always be maintained. Even when you're bombing Libyan janitors, the office of the presidency can never be questioned. And oh my god, it's so nauseating. That's one of the good things about Trump we need to mention. He's kind of, made people realize that. Actually, no. One of the reasons why people wanted Trump to go was because he disrespected the office of the presidency or whatever. And it's like, every president, pretty much every day, has done that since Roosevelt, and even before then. I just know a lot about American history post World War II. So that's what I'd say basically. It's so annoying, and it comes up in his work time and time again. Sorkin, just this reverence, so just sickening reverence for these institutions and the office, that the fucking guy who's his best friend, the best man at his wedding, won't even say the president's first name, won't even call him by that, because he has so much respect for him. I hate it, Michael. I just hate it so much with every fibre of my being. What do you think?
I think it's beautiful. I think it's powerful. Right. I think we could all learn a thing or two from that guy. I agree with you. I mean, obviously, I didn't know it was a trope of sorts, but it's silly, and I pretty much agree with you that it comes across as the idea of, and if anything, I think it's almost kind of, we're also supposed to think that Sheen is a good guy and a really humble guy, because he's letting his friend or expecting his friend to not call him Mr. President. And it's almost like, it's like two levels. It's like, wow, can you believe that his friend is so, has such respect for the office that he's calling him, by Mr. President. Yeah. And then there's can you believe the president's so humble that he doesn't even expect to be called the president? It's kind of both those things working in concert. Yeah, it is a bit.
I mean, I don't know, his humbleness. Like, if the best man kept on calling me Mr. President, I don't know. It's the best, my best friend. If you, Michael, you're my best friend in the whole wide world, right?
Yep.
Yeah. If you called me like Mr. President, I'd be like, what are you doing? Just call me Luke. Like, it just, I don't know. I don't know if it was humble. I'd be like, just please. It would be so weird.
I would know that you were referencing this film. So.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point, actually. Yeah. No, but I would hate to call somebody like my friend Mr. President. Like, no. I mean, it's never going to happen, obviously.
But in a way, it's kind of a bit of a flex, because by calling your friend Mr. President, it's like you're kind of saying, like, I'm friends with the president. So it's, kind of like, it's a bit like if you were a woman and your husband was.
Well, he's the chief of staff, though. That's the thing. He doesn't really need to flex.
Yeah, he doesn't really need to flex. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
it's like, did you know I'm friends with the president? I was like, well, you're the chief of staff. I imagine everyone knows you know him. But anyway, next up, nice Sorkin trait of, I guess, being principled about not. This is the thing. He actually does this at the end of the movie. Does the president? But he decides he doesn't want to push risking or reducing carbon emissions. Put the White House weight behind it. Too risky. They talk about the dangers of global warming, and that's acknowledged. But yeah, no, we can't do anything too drastic about it. And that's, to be fair, at the end of the movie, actually just changed tune. But that's like perfect, like Sorkin thing of like, we got to play this smart. Yes, we care deeply about this issue, but the smart thing to do is to be cowards and just wait for things to fall into play and then make our move and not risk anything. Even when you have 63% approval rating. Even when you do that. And it's the same thing with the fucking guns thing. Like, Michael J. Fox, says, hey, we've got a 63% approval rating. Maybe we can try and push through some of the things that we want to do involving gun control. And then what does Michael Douglas say, Michael? He says, we can't do that because it's an election year. Even though, as we've established, it's not an election year. We've still got, like, probably 12 months until that happens. And we have to wait until after the election to pass it, which is just the perfect Democrat thing of all time. It's like, we can't do this because we've got an election coming up in, a year, even though we just had an election like last year in the midterms. We gotta wait until, after the second election, and then we gotta wait until after the midterms, and then finally we can pass it. We have to worry that, passing the bill may hurt the next president's chances if they're a Democrat, in the next election after that. So we have to be very cautious all the time. And it's so annoying. This guy's got 63% approval rating. Fucking, as Michael J. Fox says, take it out for a spin. And eventually in the end he does, though. Again, eventually in the end he does the right thing, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, what do you think, Michael?
No, yeah, basically, yeah, that's it. Like, it's so silly, and it's just kind of it's so cautious, and I just feel like nobody respects being cautious. Throw caution to the wind sometimes, damn it. Throw caution to the wind in something other than engaging in a military operation in a foreign country. Throw caution to the wind in terms of domestic policy for once, you losers. And yeah, I pretty much agree with you that when they're ahead, and I think it is kind of the thing that Democrats are really afraid to kind of push with it. It reminds me of course, Louis C.K., our hero, said that when you're doing a stand-up comedy routine and people are laughing, you stay in the bit. You keep pushing with the bit that everyone finds funny. So you kind of drag things out a bit. And that's what they should do. If they're getting high approval, well, I don't know, are they getting high approval for doing nothing? I hope not. I mean, I guess in this universe they possibly are. Like, what do you think is approval? Oh, the president hasn't done shit. I love him.
Well, they don't ever say what he's done over the last few years, but that's just this perfect, neoliberal
he's
fantasy.
Been the president, and he's
just being the president. He's just managing the country perfectly. His character is so good, and that's all that matters to the voters. He's got 63% approval rating. Like, the problems of the 90s was so tame compared to now. It really is. But yeah, so then there's the crime bill. I don't know if it was similar to the 1994 crime bill, Michael, because.
It is kind of funny to be bringing up the crime bill.
yeah, and that may have cost Biden, because the African American vote under Trump crew, that may have cost Biden actually, because many African Americans obviously would remember the crime bill, and they would remember it passing in '94, and Biden was central to that. So that may have actually. It's funny that. But I guess they're modelling that bill off that, even though actually this bill in the movie talks about guns quite a bit. It's mainly about guns, which I think the 1994 bill was mainly about drugs. That's what it was trying to stop rampant drug use. And I don't think drugs are ever mentioned. So there might actually be different things. But yeah, it's just kind of funny to look back on that as like, yes, this is when the Democrats were passing the crime bill, which would surely lead to election success and not be hated 20 years later. But yeah, so there's that. I guess, Sorkin doesn't like guns. That was a theme apparently throughout the West Wing. He hates guns. That's the one issue he cares about so much, the guns. And I don't think it's a bad issue to care about, but I think there's a lot of the problems in America that you'd hope Sorkin would be as passionate about, but apparently not.
Especially seeing as, I hate to say it, but you look at countries like Switzerland, they have a lot of guns, but they don't have a lot of other shit things that America has.
Yeah,
so
no.
Maybe I mean, I'm not I'm personally not into guns, given I live in the UK, and why would I ever care about guns? But I will admit that guns aren't necessarily the biggest problem in America.
No, I mean, I don't think they're the biggest problem in America. Certainly, I mean, that's the thing. There I think are like 10 other problems that need to be fixed before then. But anyway,
and some of those problems would probably reduce some of the gun problems.
Exactly. Yes. Precisely. But anyway, we'll move on to. This was a great scene when Michael Douglas is really sad about killing the Libyan janitor.
Oh yeah, I found that so funny.
Yeah, it's like to be fair to Sorkin, he does say this is the least presidential thing I'll do. I mean, I'd kind of argue it's probably the most presidential thing, killing innocent civilians in, Arab countries. Probably pretty, presidential in terms of the standard that presidents nowadays adhere to. But actually, him saying that, I was like, okay, that's a bit different. It's you got to be strong to murder these innocent civilians. I just hate that kind of logic so much, and it is kind of rejected in this movie. But at the end of the day, he still goes ahead and does it to protect Israel. Which great. It's that bit's realistic at least. So what do you think, Michael?
No, yeah, basically, I mean, that's it. It's kind of, it feels like it's so, again, it comes into the whole America is the world police thing. The idea that America agonizes over, or the American president agonizes over making these decisions. They don't, and
in real life, you wouldn't agonize.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel like, and especially it's so specific. Like I feel like obviously there are examples of where you can think, that Western countries don't act completely insane, but that's probably just because it's not a total war. But the idea that he's like this janitor in this building, it's so sad. No, he wouldn't care, and he wouldn't be like, he'd just be like, he'd probably imagine like, we saved loads of lives by doing this action. I
think it's fair to say Trump is a psychopath. I think we can nail that down. Obama, also a complete psychopath, did not care that 90% of his drone strikes killed innocent civilians.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah,
Bush, George W. Bush.
I think Bush might have been. I think Bush might have been like a true believer. Like it's kind of weird, but I genuinely.
Well, he certainly didn't care about the janitors, though. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he didn't care about the janitors.
Did Bill Clinton?
Obviously, he didn't care about the people in Guantanamo Bay or Abu Ghraib. But yeah, Bill Clinton. Yeah, see, I do remember there's a whole thing about Bill Clinton. Didn't he like bomb like a chemical plant in Syria and
probably
and then like basically the chemical plant was actually producing loads of really important medical stuff as well, and it basically meant that loads of people died because of, I remember because it was a big substance of a debate between Sam Harris and Noam Chomsky. I don't know if you ever remember that, but basically Sam Harris tried to entice Noam Chomsky into a debate about like American interference in globally. And the big thing at the center of it was this whole thing where Bill Clinton basically, I think it was Syria and another country. They had some chemical plants, and Clinton basically blew them up, and he also had medical stuff in them, and it killed loads of people. So
absolutely.
Although again, I don't think I feel like with Clinton, he's probably not fully psychopath like with Obama.
No, he definitely is. He absolutely 100% is.
I don't know. So yeah,
he definitely. No, you don't. I don't know. Bill Clinton is an absolute psychopath. 100%.
I'm just like this is my logic with Clinton, and I'll let you dismantle it. But my logic with Clinton, I'm like, well, I feel like the culture of the time was such. I can imagine someone getting caught away with it, like the idea of like, because I mean, like obviously, So what were the big things Clinton
caught
did?
Up in the thing that we're doing the right thing.
He was involved in Kosovo. He was involved in what were all? It was Kosovo and obviously the Syria thing I mentioned, but. Overall, I mean, Clinton, don't get me wrong, I mean, he was pretty crazy in some areas, but I don't think he was as hawkish as Obama.
Well, as Obama, I mean, that's hard to say, considering Obama...
bar to beat.
Obama inherited 2 wars, so...
Yeah, that's kind of...
I mean, if Clinton inherited 2 wars, we'd do anything different, probably not. Anyway, we've strayed off topic, basically. Yeah. But the point is, every president is a psychopath. Every president would not care about this. It's good that this president does care, and it's nice that he says it's the least presidential thing. But yeah, just totally unrealistic from Sorkin, the idea that, a president would do something like this. And anyway, he still does it at the end, so whatever. But yeah, I think that's pretty much... Oh, no, we have to... Well, this goes into what we guess we were just talking about, that this president, he's sad about these Libyan janitors. He's also incredibly smart, and as we've just seen, very empathetic before he kills them, obviously. He's got so many A stars, and it's just this like perfect liberal fantasy that Sorkin has concocted, evolving this president. He's charming, handsome, funny, smart, principled. Just like the whole shebang. And he couldn't. I don't think he could do that for Bartlett in the West Wing, because people are like, okay, this is too unrealistic. But he can do it for a 90-minute movie.
Yeah.
I guess he can do it for a 90-minute movie, and he fully did that. And of course, the president has to be, I guess, these things as well, because it's a rom-com as well. So he needs that. But yeah, and the final one, I guess, is the line from Michael J. Fox talking about, like, they want leadership. talk about the American people. That's what they want. They crave it. And I think Sorkin, more than anyone else, is a great man guy. He's all about, people got to be, well, the president's got to be charismatic, speak from the heart with principle, show people the way and they will follow, that kind of thing. That's what Michael J. Fox is kind of espousing there. And I think that shows in the final speech, the inspirational speech where the music swells and he tells the American people and his opponent what's what. And somehow, I bet if this movie continued, his approval ratings will go up by 10%, because that's just how things work in the real world for sure, and not the exact opposite. So that's, I guess, on the political traits of Sorkin. Anything else to add, Michael?
No. I think basically you pretty much covered it. And again, obviously, it should be pointed out the political traits of Sorkin are basically just the same ideas that are espoused by liberals all over the place. Basically, it's a common idea. His
writings are like the North Star for liberals, That's what it is. It's like these. He writes this
beautiful
fiction, and it's like liberals around America, and indeed probably around the world, are like, this is what we should aspire to, particularly in America. Well, this president is who we need to be our president of the United States. Just forgetting everything about policy and shifting that to one side.
Yeah, I think Sorkin should write some kind of messianic prophecies. Should be like, one day it will happen. The great president who will bring. How obviously in films, like obviously it's in of course the Bible. It's also in the Star Wars, that's what I'm thinking of, where the idea of like the person who will come and of course it's in Avatar: The Last Airbender, somebody who will come and bring balance to the world. I feel like that's the kind of fantasy writing that Sorkin should do, where it's like one day there will be a president. It all changed when the Trump nation attacked, but it was foretold that one day the great president would return.
Well,
and
Michael, that's how people felt about Obama in 2008. That's literally how it was. Like Obama, he was literally modeled. Apparently, one of the characters in The West Wing was modeled off Obama, if I remember correctly. Like, he was the guy. He was the promised. He was the prince who was promised, to use a phrase that I think is from Game of Thrones, but I'm not quite sure.
It's Azor Ahai, the prince who was promised. The one true king, Stannis.
The one true king. That he's the guy you've been waiting for. Liberals' prayers have been answered. Obama, the perfect president. And he's black as well. Unbelievable.
There is something kind of monarchical about it, because obviously one of the ideas that underpins the monarchy is the idea that when there's a king who has God's blessing, the nation will flourish. And it's kind of the idea of the king doesn't have to do anything. Obviously, monarchists don't believe in policies. What they believe in is the idea that if the right person is in charge, and the right person will be in charge because, like I say, divine intervention or something, then everything will be fine. And
that is completely true. That is why I think many liberals love our royalty. I mean, maybe Prince Andrew has dented that, hopefully. And it's why, I think, to be honest, why there was a poll released yesterday, and it was what for the Democrats, like, what if Biden can't finish his term, who do you want to run in 2024? And the top answer was Michelle
Markle.
Obama.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Not Meghan Markle.
I genuinely thought you were saying Markle.
No, it was Michelle Obama.
Okay, yeah.
Just the whole, we need the next in line to the throne. We love Obama. Take someone from the same family. Michelle Obama and all that shit. But you are correct. They do have a monarchist mindset, which is why we should love the French. By the way. And there was some respect.
Yeah, we love the French.
Yeah, paid to the French president in this movie.
Yes.
And correct, because the French got it right.
But maybe the French president should learn to pay respect to other people's religions.
Okay, calm down here. So now we are going to conclude. You go first, Michael, because I've talked for a while.
So basically, this film, it is. I guess I kind of feel like it's almost less interesting than Irresistible, because it's kind of more of an actual film. It's not as funny as, of course, a full-on conservative film, and that's kind of the issue with this. And it is why I say it is like the film equivalent of one of these kind of. I mean, I guess the film is like the president in it. If this president actually existed, I'd be like, oh man. I mean, he's nice and he's got lots of pretty speeches, but I'm not that interested in him. And that's kind of how I feel about this film. Like, if this film was running for president, I would be like, it would basically be the same as if this president was running for president. Same thing. And with that said, basically, it's hard because obviously the first thing to point out is that it's just boring. Like, there's not really much there. The romance is boring. I need to stop saying the word boring just over again. But the romance, it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like, and obviously there's the fact that it's based in some weird tropes when it comes to men and women, and that's weird. And then the actual plot is not sophisticated. Like, there's nothing there's not really much political intrigue in the film, and that's why it's kind of hard to even talk about the plot. And with all that said, it's like the film isn't really saying anything apart from just the most boring thing ever. And with that said, I mean, the problem is the film, I guess, is inoffensive, so I'm probably going to have to... I can't put it that low just because it's so inoffensive, but I'm going to put it below Clueless, but above Jurassic World. And that is
what's that out of 10?
That is a middle, a 3.5 out of 10, basically.
3.5 out of 10. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I mean, I think overall it's a shit rom-com. Just as a rom-com, you got these two characters, and it's never explained why they like each other, that much. I think I can't remember the last time we did a rom-com, but I remember we reviewed Notting Hill a while ago, and that was my complaint concerning Notting Hill. It was like, well, why does Hugh Grant like, what's she called? Jennifer Roberts, that was it. Why does Hugh Grant like Jennifer Roberts?
Julia Roberts, actually.
Sorry.
You're totally confusing Julia Roberts with Jennifer Aniston?
That's probably it. That's probably it. Yeah. Why does yeah, that was stupid. Why does he like Julia Roberts? And at the end of the movie, he just goes, because it's bloody, I can't remember the character's name. It was like, it's bloody Julia Roberts in it. What am I doing? I've got to go chase her. And it's like, well, you didn't explain why you like her, so I can't give it that good marks. And this one, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, well, why is the president literally risking his presidency for this woman? I don't know. Like, he's determined on principle to have this relationship, but then there's never a scene where it's like, well, why is he, why is he wanting to, spend so much time with her? I guess you go, she's very nice, she's attractive, blah, 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 but come on, you need to give us more than that. So yeah, shit rom-com. I think we've been over the political traits just then. I do not like them. Like you said, there's not much political intrigue. It's weird that it's kind of there, but you don't really care about it that much. Just a lot of bullshit, really, about politics, which, yeah, it's quite annoying if you don't agree with what's being, or the I guess, attitude that is being espoused from these characters concerning politics. And then just the overall film, it feels so aged, like I said, just a movie of its time, movie of its era, the 1990s, when these kind of movies can get made. Because now, this kind of movie came out today. Obviously, there's so many different political problems. Like, who the fuck cares if the president wants to date a girl? There's so many issues, and of course, since he's a Democrat, half the people watching would think he's probably having sex with kids. That's kind of what we touched on last week with Irresistible. So yeah, it's just a whole different time when this movie was released. But yeah, overall, you gave it a 3, Michael, or 3.5? Did you say? I've got to give this movie, I'm going to whack it down to a 2.5. Slightly better than Irresistible, but still pretty shit. Okay. I have to tell you what we're doing next week, by the way, because I've changed it.
Oh, you're always changing things, Luke, you madman.
Well, it's because Kong Godzilla isn't going to be released until 2021.
Oh, I was so looking forward to that.
Very sadly. So sad. But the next movie we're going to be reviewing is Crash.
Oh, okay.
The 2005 movie Crash. Yes, we will be talking about it.
Good. Oh, wait, so we've got like a trifecta of liberal trite. Love it.
Yes, I guess so. I mean, Irresistible, was it really liberal? Apart from it was just incredibly naive. I mean, that's what I'd say.
Right?
I guess, yeah, it's kind of, it is naive in a liberal way. Like, these, everyone, knows the real problems of politics. And apart from that, people actually have political differences which they disagree on. So yeah, that's what we shall be doing next week, Crash. But for this week, we've been selecting and reflecting on the American presidents because of the very own election that America has just had. What an election it was. Oh god, it feels so weird watching this movie, like we said at the beginning after seeing that election. And join us for Crash next time. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.